Hey Mike, it's so great to see you. I heard you've been binge watching some new shows lately.
Binge watching. I'm not familiar with that term, Sarah. What does it mean?
Oh, binge watching is when you watch multiple episodes of a TV show or several movies back to back without taking long breaks. Like when you spend an entire weekend watching a whole season of a show.
Oh, then yes, I'm definitely guilty of binge watching. I just finished watching this amazing thriller that had me on the edge of my seat the whole time.
On the edge of your seat? That's a great expression. Could you explain what you mean by that?
Well, when I say it had me on the edge of my seat, I mean it was so exciting and suspenseful that I was literally sitting forward in my chair, eager to see what would happen next. Is that right?
Exactly, you've got it. What show was it that got you so hooked?
Hooked? Is that similar to being on the edge of your seat?
Not exactly. When you're hooked on a show, it means you're addicted to it or really invested in it. You can't wait to watch the next episode. It's less about suspense and more about overall enjoyment.
Oh, I see. Well, in that case, I'm totally hooked on The Missing Piece. Have you heard of it? It's a real nail biter.
There's another great expression. A nail biter is something that makes you so nervous or excited that you literally bite your nails while watching, right?
Yes, I didn't even realize I was using an idiom there. The show has so many plot twists, I can hardly keep up.
Speaking of plot twists, did you see that major cliffhanger in the season finale?
Sarah, you keep using these interesting terms. What's a cliffhanger?
A cliffhanger is when an episode or season ends with a really dramatic moment or an unresolved situation that leaves you desperate to know what happens next. It's like you're hanging off a cliff, waiting to be rescued by the next episode.
That's such a vivid way to describe it. Yes, that ending was definitely a cliffhanger. I can't believe we have to wait for the next season to find out what happens. By the way, what's the difference between a season and a series?
That's a great question. In American English, a season is a collection of episodes that air during a specific period, usually over several months. A series refers to the entire show from beginning to end. Though interestingly, in British English, they often use series to mean what Americans call a season.
That's helpful to know. I've been watching both American and British shows, and I was a bit confused about that. Speaking of which, what do you think about all these streaming platforms?
When you say streaming platforms, are you familiar with what streaming means?
I think so, but could you explain it just to make sure I understand correctly?
Of course. Streaming means watching video content directly over the internet, rather than downloading it or watching it on traditional TV. Platforms like Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime are streaming services. You can watch content instantly as long as you have an internet connection.
These platforms have so many shows that it's sometimes overwhelming. How do you choose what to watch?
I usually read reviews or check out the ratings. Sometimes I also look for shows that have good word of mouth.
Word of mouth? Does that have something to do with talking?
Yes, word of mouth means recommendations that spread from person to person through conversation. It's when people tell their friends about something they enjoyed, and those friends tell other friends, and so on.
Got it. Speaking of recommendations, what's your take on foreign films? I've been trying to watch more of them with subtitles.
I love foreign films. They really broaden your horizons. Have you watched any that really stood out to you or resonated with you?
Resonated? What do you mean by that?
When something resonates with you, it means it connects with you on a personal level or has a strong emotional impact. It's like when a movie story or characters feel particularly meaningful to you.
In that case, yes. I watched this amazing Korean film that really resonated with me. The cinematography was breathtaking.
Hold on, cinematography? Could you break that down for me?
Sure. Cinematography refers to how the movie is filmed, the camera work, lighting, and visual composition. When I say it's breathtaking, I mean it's visually stunning or beautiful.
You know, it's great how you're picking up all this film terminology. Your English vocabulary related to movies has really improved.
Thanks. I find that watching movies and TV shows helps a lot with learning English. I especially love when shows have witty dialogue.
Witty dialogue? Could you elaborate on what that means?
Witty dialogue is conversation between characters that's clever and funny, often with wordplay or smart humor. For example, I love the back and forth banter in classic comedies.
Banter, that's another great term. What do you think it means?
I think banter is like playful conversation or teasing between characters, right?
Exactly. It's often humorous and friendly. Speaking of which, have you seen any good comedies lately? I'm in the mood for something lighthearted.
Lighthearted? Is that the opposite of those heavy dramas we were talking about earlier?
Yes, lighthearted means fun and not too serious. It's entertainment that's meant to make you feel good rather than deal with intense or dramatic themes.
In that case, I just watched this great rom-com that I think you'd love.
Some people might not know what a rom-com is. Want to explain it?
Oh, sure. Rom-com is short for romantic comedy, a movie that combines a love story with humor. They usually have a happy ending or what people call a happily ever after.
Perfect explanation. You know, this conversation has made me realize how many specific terms and phrases we use when talking about movies and TV shows.
I know, like when people talk about a movie being a blockbuster. That confused me at first.
Want to share what you learned about what blockbuster means?
A blockbuster is a really successful movie, usually one that makes a lot of money at the box office. Speaking of which, what exactly is the box office?
The box office refers to how much money a movie makes from ticket sales. When we say a movie bombed at the box office, it means it was a financial failure.
Oh, that makes sense. And what about when people say a movie has gone viral? That's different from being a blockbuster, right?
Yes, going viral is more about popularity on the internet. It means something spreads rapidly through social media and online sharing. A movie can go viral without being a blockbuster, especially if memorable scenes or quotes from it spread online.
These conversations really helped me understand all these entertainment expressions. By the way, what's your opinion on remakes?
Before I share my opinion, let's make sure everyone knows what a remake is. Can you explain it?
A remake is when they make a new version of an old movie or TV show, right? Like taking a classic film and creating a modern version of it?
Exactly, and sometimes they do what's called a reboot, which is similar but often takes more creative liberties with the original material.
You lost me there. What do you mean by takes creative liberties?
When someone takes creative liberties, it means they make significant changes to the original story or concept. They might change the setting, characters, or plot while keeping the basic premise.
I see, like how some modern adaptations of Shakespeare's plays are set in the present day.
That's a perfect example. You're really getting good at using these terms naturally. Want to grab another coffee and talk about some upcoming releases?
Upcoming releases? Those are movies that haven't come out yet, right?
Exactly, movies that are scheduled to be released soon. Some people call them upcoming films or future releases. So, have you seen any trailers for upcoming releases that caught your eye?
What exactly makes a good trailer? Sometimes I feel like they give away too much of the plot.
A trailer is a short preview of a movie that's meant to generate buzz and get people excited about watching it. You make a good point about revealing too much. That's what we call a spoiler.
Spoiler, is that when someone tells you important parts of the plot before you watch something?
Exactly. That's why people often say spoiler alert before discussing major plot points of a movie or show. It's a warning to others who haven't seen it yet.
I hate when people give spoilers. By the way, I've been hearing people talk about Easter eggs in movies. They're not talking about actual eggs, right? Yeah.
No, they're not. Easter eggs are hidden references or inside jokes that filmmakers include for fans to find. They're like little rewards for paying close attention.
Oh, that's cool. Like in superhero movies when they hint at future characters or storylines?
Yes, those are perfect examples. Speaking of superhero movies, they're often part of what we call a franchise. Do you know what that means?
Is it when they make multiple movies in the same series?
Exactly. A franchise is a series of related movies, often with the same characters or set in the same universe. They usually have sequels and prequels.
I know what a sequel is. It's a movie that continues the story, but what's a prequel?
A prequel is a movie that tells a story that happened before the events of the original film. It gives background or explains how things came to be.
That helps explain a lot. I've also heard people talk about director's cuts. What makes those special?
A director's cut is a version of the film that represents the director's complete vision without changes requested by the studio. It often includes scenes that were cut from the theatrical release.
Theatrical release, that means when it's shown in theaters, right?
Correct. As opposed to when it's released for home viewing or streaming. By the way, have you been to any midnight screenings lately?
Midnight screenings. What's special about watching a movie at midnight?
Midnight screenings are special premiere showings of highly anticipated movies that start at 12 a.m. on the release date. Fans often line up for hours to be among the first to see the film.
That sounds fun, though I prefer watching movies in the afternoon. I'm not really a night owl. Hey, what does it mean when people say a movie is Oscar-worthy?
When something is Oscar-worthy, it means it's good enough to win an Academy Award, also known as an Oscar. It usually refers to films with exceptional acting, directing, or overall quality.
I see. And what about when critics talk about a movie's pacing? I never quite understood that.
Pacing refers to how quickly or slowly a story moves along. Good pacing means the story flows well and keeps viewers engaged. Bad pacing might mean it feels too rushed or too slow.
That makes sense. Sometimes I watch movies that seem to drag on forever.
Drag on. That's a great phrasal verb. Want to explain what it means?
When something drags on, it continues for too long and becomes boring or tedious, right?
Perfect explanation. You're really getting the hang of these expressions. By the way, have you seen any good indie films recently?
Indie films, that's short for independent films, isn't it? But what exactly makes a film independent?
Independent or indie films are movies made outside the major film studios, usually with smaller budgets. They often take more creative risks and tell more unique stories.
I've noticed they often have more character development than action scenes.
Character development. That's an important term in film analysis. Could you explain what it means?
I think it's how characters grow and change throughout the story, right? Like when they learn lessons or overcome challenges.
Exactly. Speaking of which, what's your take on method acting?
Method acting? I've heard that term before, but I'm not entirely sure what it means.
Method acting is when actors fully immerse themselves in their roles, sometimes staying in character even when they're not filming. They try to actually experience what their character is going through.
Oh, that's interesting. I've also heard people talk about breaking the fourth wall. What does that mean?
Breaking the fourth wall is when characters in a movie or show acknowledge they're in a film by speaking directly to the audience or showing awareness that they're in a fictional story.
Like in those mockumentary-style shows?
Oh, good example. Want to explain what a mockumentary is for those who might not know?
A mockumentary is a fake documentary. It's filmed like a real documentary, but the story and characters are fictional. It's usually done for comedy.
You're really becoming quite knowledgeable about film terminology. Have you thought about starting your own movie review blog?
Maybe, but I'd need to learn more about film critique first. When critics talk about cinematography and sound design, I get a bit lost.
Well, we already covered cinematography earlier, but sound design is another crucial element. It refers to how all the audio elements in a film, like music, sound effects, and dialogue, are created and mixed together.
That helps. I've also heard the term green screen a lot. That's something to do with special effects, right?
Yes, a green screen is a bright green background that actors perform in front of, which can later be replaced with different backgrounds or special effects during post-production.
Post-production, is that what happens after they finish filming?
Exactly. Post-production includes all the work done after filming, like editing, adding special effects, mixing sound, and color correction. You know what's interesting? How streaming has changed the way movies are distributed. Have you heard of day and date releases?
Day and date releases? No, what's that?
It's when a movie is released in theaters and on streaming platforms on the same day. It became more common during the pandemic. Some people prefer this because they can choose how they want to watch new releases.
That's interesting. I've also noticed some movies are getting limited releases. What exactly does that mean?
A limited release is when a movie is only shown in a few theaters, usually in major cities, instead of nationwide. It's common for independent films or foreign movies.
And what about when people talk about a movie's runtime? Is that just how long it is?
Yes, runtime is the total length of the movie from start to finish, including credits. Speaking of credits, have you noticed how many people stay for post-credit scenes now?
Post-credit scenes? You mean those extra bits at the very end?
Exactly. They're also called stingers or credit cookies. Short scenes that appear during or after the closing credits. Marvel movies made them really popular.
Oh, I always stay for those. I've also heard people use the term ensemble cast. What does that mean?
An ensemble cast is when a movie or show has multiple main characters of similar importance rather than just one or two leads. Each character gets significant screen time.
Screen time? That just means how long they appear in the movie, right?
Right. By the way, what's your opinion on practical effects versus CGI?
There is that term again, CGI. I know it's about special effects, but what does it stand for?
CGI stands for computer-generated imagery. It's when special effects are created using computers, while practical effects are done physically during filming, like makeup, props, or stunts.
That helps explain why some people prefer older movies with practical effects. They say they look more realistic.
Speaking of realism, have you heard of method actors going off script?
Off script? Does that mean they're not following the screenplay?
Exactly. When actors go off script, they improvise or say things that weren't in the original screenplay. Sometimes these improvised moments end up being the best parts of the movie.
That's fascinating. I've also heard people talk about movies being character-drivel or plot-drivel. What's the difference?
A character-driven story focuses more on the character's personal development and relationships, while a plot-driven story is more about events and action moving the story forward.
I think I prefer character-driven stories. They're usually more thought-provoking.
Thought-provoking, that's a great term. What do you think it means?
Something that's thought-provoking makes you think deeply about it even after it's over, right?
Perfect explanation. Have you seen any thought-provoking documentaries lately?
Actually, yes, though sometimes I get confused between documentaries and docudramas. What's the difference?
A documentary presents real events and people, while a docudrama recreates true events using actors and scripted scenes. It's a blend of documentary and drama.
That makes sense. By the way, what does it mean when people say a movie has broken the box office record?
That means it's made more money in ticket sales than any previous movie, usually within a specific category or time period. For example, a movie might break the opening weekend record.
I see. And when people talk about a movie's target audience, what exactly do they mean?
The target audience is the specific group of people that a movie is mainly made for, like how some movies are made for children, while others are aimed at adults.
Is that why movies have different ratings?
Yes. Movie ratings are guidelines that tell viewers what age group a movie is appropriate for. Want to talk about what the different ratings mean?
Sure. But first, can you explain what people mean when they say a movie has gone on hiatus?
When something goes on hiatus, it means there's a temporary pause or break in production. This could happen during filming or between seasons of a TV show.
Oh, that's different from being canceled then?
Yes, when a show is canceled, it's ended completely, while a hiatus is just a break. By the way, have you heard of the term breakthrough performance?
Is that when an actor does an exceptionally good job?
More specifically, it's when an actor gives a performance that launches them to stardom or recognition. It's usually their first major successful role.
That helps. I've also heard people talk about a movie's production value. What exactly is that?
Production value refers to the overall quality of a movie's technical elements, things like sets, costumes, special effects, and sound quality. High production value usually means a lot of money and effort was put into making the movie look and sound good. You know what bothers me sometimes? When movies rely too heavily on exposition.
Exposition. Could you explain that term?
Exposition is when information about the plot or characters is directly explained to the audience, usually through dialogue. Good movies try to show rather than tell.
Speaking of showing, what does it mean when people say a movie has good world building?
World building refers to how well a movie creates and develops its fictional universe, including the setting, rules, customs, and history. It's especially important in sci-fi and fantasy films.
That's helpful. And what's a movie adaptation?
An adaptation is when a story from one medium, like a book or video game, is turned into a movie. Some people say based on or inspired by the original work.
I see. Let's review all the terms and phrases we've discussed today. It would be helpful to go through them all.
Great idea. Let's go through the key terms we've covered. First, let's talk about watching habits. Remember binge watching?
Yes, that's when you watch multiple episodes or movies back to back, and then they're streaming, which means watching content directly over the internet.
Exactly. We also learned some phrases to describe exciting content, like on the edge of your seat and nailed by.
Right, and a cliffhanger is when an episode ends with suspense, leaving you eager to know what happens next.
We covered lots of industry terms too. Remember the difference between a season and a series?
Yes, a season is a collection of episodes, while a series is the entire show, though in British English they use series differently.
We also learned about word of mouth, which is when recommendations spread through conversation and how something can resonate with viewers.
And cinematography, the art of how a movie is filmed. Plus witty dialogue and banter for describing clever conversations between characters.
Don't forget light-hearted versus serious content, and terms like rom-com for romantic comedy.
We learn about blockbusters, very successful movies, and how something can go viral online, plus remakes and reboots of older content.
There were also technical terms like trailers, spoilers, and Easter eggs, those hidden references fans love to find.
And the difference between sequels and prequels, plus director's cuts and theatrical releases.
We covered Oscar-wealthy for high-quality films, pacing for story flow, and when something drags on for too long.
Don't forget indie films, character development, and
we also learned about breaking the fourth wall, mockumentaries, and sound design.
Plus production terms like green screen, post-production, and day-and-date releases.
And ensemble cast, screen time, CGI versus practical effects, and going off script.
We cover the difference between character-driven and plot-driven stories and what makes something thought-provoking.
And finally, we learned about production value, exposition, and world building.
Wow, we really covered a lot of useful terms and phrases. This would definitely help when discussing movies and TV shows in English.
Indeed, and remember, the best way to learn these terms is to use them in conversation and watch lots of content in English.
Thanks for helping me understand all these expressions better. Movies and TV shows are definitely more enjoyable when you understand all the terminology.
You're welcome. And remember, like any good movie, learning English is a journey, not a destination.